One of the very first questions travelers wonder when planning a trip to Italy is, how many days do I need in Rome? Well, this is a very tough question. In this video, I will help you decide how many days you need in Rome, giving you tips on what are the most time-consuming landmarks and what to do with the time you have allocated to the city. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Can you visit Rome in one day? The short answer is no. However, if you are on a layover or if you really cannot afford to stay longer, I suggest making the most of the short time that you have. However, if you have even a little chance to stretch your trip a little bit, I suggest taking it because one day it's really little to just get to know the city. So, what can you do in 24 hours in Rome? To start, you can have a nice walk around the Centro Storico to enjoy the narrow alleys, the masterpieces, the fountains, the piazzas, the churches. If you only have one day in Rome, you probably won't manage to enter any landmarks, so your time will be mainly spent walking. However, without entering the Colosseum, you can still have a view of the vestiges from ancient Rome. For example, walking along Via dei Fori Imperiali from the Colosseum to Piazza Venezia, you can see from the street level, you can see the Imperial Fora. Or if you go to Capitoline Hill, behind the Capitoline Museums, you can have a nice view of the Roman Forum. Or another way to enjoy your only day in Rome is to just pick one landmark. So you visit that landmark and then you take the rest of your time to just relax and walk around the city and see what Rome has to offer, open air and just walking around. Are 2 days in Rome enough? Again, the short answer is no. But let's say you can only afford one weekend or a short city break. So while it's not enough to obviously fully explore the city, in 2 days you can still enjoy much of the historic center and even include one major landmark. For example, you enjoy ancient Rome, so you can devote half a day to see the Colosseum and explore the Roman Forum and Palatine Hill, and then take the rest of your day just relaxing and walking around the city. On the second day, if you want, half a day you can enjoy the Vatican museums and then take the rest of the day walking either around the neighborhood or in Trastevere. If you enjoy exploring museums, in 2 days you can fit in the highlights of Vatican City, so the Vatican museums and St. Peter Basilica, or an entrance to other important galleries in Rome, such as the Capitoline Museums, the Museo Nazionale Romano and the Diocletian Baths, or the noble palaces that were turned into museums, such as Palazzo Barberini or Galleria Borghese. Are 3 days in Rome enough? Well, 3 days in Rome, it's a fair compromise between a long weekend and a short holiday. I'm not saying that 72 hours will give you plenty of time to see Rome far and wide, but it's enough to allow you to enjoy your time without choking on your lunch because you have to keep running. Staying in Rome for 3 days will give you actually the time to enjoy different types of landmarks, sites, activities and experiences. If it's your first time in Rome, you can start from, let's say, ancient Rome. So the Colosseum, the Roman Forum, the Palatine Hill. If you enjoy the subject, you can also include the Trajan's markets, which are in Piazza Venezia, so not far from the Colosseum, or the Caracalla, which are not far from the Circus Maximus. In 3 days, you can also include the Vatican City, so the Vatican Museums, the St. Peter Basilica and St. Peter Square. Keep in mind that these sites, so the Vatican City and the ancient Rome, both of them, they will take at least half a day. So I suggest not visiting this on the same day. So let's say the first day you devote half a day to ancient Rome, the second day half a day to the Vatican City. If you're doing the Vatican City or the ancient Rome in the morning, once you're done, I suggest you enjoy a relaxing meal and take your time in the afternoon for a nice stroll and some downtime, because you will be quite tired. If you plan properly and stick to your schedule, after the Vatican, you can also include a visit to Castel Sant'Angelo, and then maybe in the afternoon you can take a stroll to Trastevere, the Trastevere neighborhood, and enjoy a nice walk in a historical, quaint and nice neighborhood where there are also landmarks to visit and nice restaurants to try. Are 4 days in Rome too much? 4 days in Rome, it's definitely not too much for such a big city like Rome, so packed with art and history. Actually, I find 4 days in Rome quite enough to enjoy different types of landmarks, experiences, activities. For example, in 4 days, you can take your time inside a museum instead of rushing it. You can stop for a cocktail. You can stop for an aperitivo. You can enjoy some downtime. Or for example, you actually want to enjoy a stroll in the city center and you don't have to run. In 4 days in Rome, you can include a day trip, because there are many nice day trips you can do. You can take from Rome easily by train and enjoy a day out of the city traffic, for example. Or you can enjoy different experiences, such as taking a food tour or a cooking class. 4 days in Rome will also give you the time to explore a different neighborhood than the usual city center or ancient Rome or the Vatican. For example, you can devote, let's say, only half a day to a nice neighborhood like Testaccio or Ostiense. In 4 days in Rome, for sure, you can include a few hours in Trastevere or the Jewish Quarter, where you can also have a nice lunch, or dinner, a nice meal in one of the typical kosher traditional restaurants. What landmarks take more time in Rome? Here I'm gonna talk about the ticketed landmarks, because they are the most time consuming. Obviously, if you're visiting a piazza or a church, it's entirely up to you how long you want to stay, how long you want to linger in the piazza. The first landmark I feel compelled to mention is the Colosseum. Only to visit the Colosseum, I would say it would take between 1 to 2 hours. It depends if you only want to visit the area open to the public, or if you also want to include the undergrounds, the arena floor. But the Colosseum, it's not just the time you need to visit inside, it's also the time you need to queue. So this is all depends on your type of ticket and also on the season. Another landmark is again the Colosseum, but this time with the Roman Forum and Palatine Hill. The same to visit all of them, I would say you will need from 4 to 5 hours because they are very large archaeological sites. All of them, they have a queue. The Colosseum has its line and the Roman Forum another line, a separate line, but it also depends if you already have the ticket and also which entrance you decide to enter from. Once you are inside the Roman Forum, you access the Palatine Hill from the Roman Forum, so there is no another line. Another landmark it's one of the most time-consuming in Rome is the Vatican museums. The Vatican museums inside, they are huge. So many people just enter and do the Sistine Chapel, the Gallery of the Maps, the Raphael rooms, and that's it. However, the Vatican museums are way beyond this, and I would say to devote to this huge gallery some 4 to 5 hours, so the whole morning, I would say. If you are really in a rush and you want to do the whole Vatican City in one morning, so the Vatican museums and the St. Peter Basilica, I would say the Vatican museums at least 2 to 3 hours. To enter the Vatican museums, you also need to consider that there will be a line. If you have a ticket with a timed entrance, your line will be shorter. Another landmark that is quite time consuming in Rome is St. Peter Basilica. St. Peter Basilica is free of charge to enter. However, inside it's so huge and so packed with art and masterpieces that I suggest you stay at least 1 hour. Obviously, it's up to you how much you want to allocate, but from St. Peter Basilica, after the Basilica, you can also visit the crypt and the Treasury Museum. So the visit can go really from between 30 minutes up to 2 hours. However, also to enter St. Peter Basilica, you need to consider there will be a line, and that line, you can't skip it because it's the line to go through the security check, and that one, no one can skip it. Another landmark that is quite time consuming is the Capitoline Museums. This is close to Piazza Venezia, and I suggest at least 2 hours. This museum also requires a ticket, and it's huge. It's really big, and it goes through the Roman history and culture from its foundation. So I suggest really no less than 2 hours. Once you're done, you can go all the way up and enjoy a nice coffee in the rooftop cafe bar of the Capitol Museum. Another landmark that is quite time consuming is Museo Nazionale Romano, close to Stazione Termini, the one set in the Diocletian Baths. For this museum, I suggest allocating at least 2 hours. This museum hosts the world's largest collection of ancient Roman artifacts, objects, tools, carving and sculptures. So really, I suggest no less than 2 hours. So we are at the end of our video. If you enjoyed it and if you found it useful for planning your trip to Rome, consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. So goodbye for now and see you in the next video.